Finally got the coating done on this Chevy SS. It's a little dusty. Was outside for a little bit today while I cleaned up a lot of the, basically the polishers and all the other food we had out here. And then I finally got this back home today. So this now has mostly tuned, it's drivable, just can't go wide open throttle at this point in time. Fresh set of 373s, axle bearings, seals, Mosier axles since I destroyed my original ones. Whole thing's been gone through, fresh fluid, gaskets, everything. It's also got a true track in it now. Like I said, the car is tuned to a certain extent. They drove it around for maybe an hour and a half, just street tuning it, putting miles on the new setup. Everything is money, pretty much, except for just need to actually do the wide open throttle tuning on the dyno. We did swap in a set of green OEM Ford SVL green top 42-pound injectors. Those turned out to be money. That's a super great option for a lot of the LT guys like me that are looking to do a bump and power this route or another route, whatever way it may be. And you don't want to spend an arm and a leg on injectors. Those are awesome because those have a lot of really, really good OEM data available for them for the tuner. So, like I said, obviously we can't go wide open throttle. Cruised the car home 15 or 20 minutes today. Drove wonderful. I think we need to work on either the idle air control valve settings or I need to just replace the IAC. I'm not sure. It kind of high idle hangs a little bit when it's cold. Other than that, car drives great. It doesn't leak anything. Double check the oil cooler lines. I do think I need to loosen those once or twice and snug them back up since they're a metal flared seat fitting, and I think the surfaces might have been a little imperfect, but they're soft lines, so maybe they just need to be pressed against. I've seen that happen with homemade flare lines before, stuff like that. But otherwise, this thing is running money. Shifts nicer, it stops nicer, it drives nicer, it sounds nicer because of that little guy. Obviously, you can see that it did have some pulley misalignment here on the very inside. Not sure if that's terribly visible. There's a couple little fuzzies here and there from where it was rubbing pretty bad on the pulley, which there's just barely any space between the idler / tensioner assembly, but doesn't slip the belt. Again, the only thing I'm really concerned about is if that one bar map sensor, that's OEM with that cover on it from Etchus, that's going to be enough, since I'm not quite sure what this thing's going to make boost wise. However, having both of these cars here is pretty cool, considering that that is basically this car's grandfather, but from a different continent. Which I'm still absolutely in love with the paint on this car. Like I said in the other video, we probably hit a good 90% correction rate without wet sanding a couple of the trouble spots. But again, this car was a daily driver for the previous owner. Took his kids around in it, but he did take care of the interior quite nicely. But man, just the insane depth of this paint. It's just wild to see in person, especially under a good 5.5K or 5600K light. It's just absolutely wild. I do think that this summer I will be recorrecting this thing. Obviously, it's pretty gross from sitting outside for a couple days. They just, timing issues, didn't know that the axles were going to be fucked, didn't know that all the seals were going to be super fucked either, even though we would have replaced the pinion seal anyways. We found a leaking axle seal on both sides, so we just went ahead and did that. Unfortunately, the C-clip eliminator did not work, but the Mosiers we ordered, they ended up being just the right length to be able to still use the factory style C-clips. But hopefully here, I believe on Friday, this thing's going to go back to the shop for storage unless he's driving it, and then he'll be swapping his truck out for it. And then I'll have the GTO back home here as well. Both of these, this and the GTO, need a good wash. And then this summer, I'll be replacing the hood liner, respraying the hood. Need to touch up the front bumper because there's a little, not a little, there's a gouge somewhere in this bastard. Yep, there it is. I don't know how that happened, but I'm pretty sure it happened sometime around the torque head install. And then I need to get the last of the PDR done. As you can see, there's some small denting up here on the fender, and then the coilovers and the tubular control arms as well. So hopefully this should be pretty busy summer. I don't have a whole lot to do on the GTO, to be honest, but now that the glass debacle's over, which was a story in and of itself, a very unfortunate one that had a happy ending. You know, I was able to get the rest of the interior trimmed out for the most part how I want it to be. I still need to trim in the driver's side carpet a little bit better. You can see that wrinkle right here in the carpet. I need to trim more material out of that corner to pull it a little bit more taut and then nail everything down on it. But I am quite pleased with it. So I'm going to freeze my ass off for a minute, pop open the door since it's 20 degrees here, and let the actual garage door lighting kind of do its thing on paint on this thing and slam the hood on this. I'm going to get some neat looking pictures and videos, hopefully.